name is Joan and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 of my favorite budget-friendly recipes. These are recipes that are my go-tos. I make them almost all the time, and most importantly, with food prices going up, they are budget-friendly. Before I get started with the recipes, I'm gonna share with you some of my recommendations of pantry items that you should always have on hand. They can make any recipe way more flavorful, and if you're not someone who's super experienced with cooking from scratch, these items will take your cooking to another level. So of course you need to have your salt and pepper, different types of oils. I usually have olive oil, coconut oil, and sunflower oil for more high temperature cooking. But one of my favorite things that I always have on hand is garlic powder. I've actually been using the same bottle for like over a year now, and I've found that I could buy garlic powder in bulk at Winco. So I'll just get like a good amount for like 50 cents, and it's enough for 2 bottles to refill. And I also highly recommend onion powder as well. Again, I've been using this bottle for over a year now, and I just refill it at Winco for about 50 cents. I also use paprika, again, a bottle that I reuse, and I just refill it all the time. And the other item is cumin. I don't use this as much, but it does creep into a lot of the recipes that I have been making lately. And one of the recipes I'm sharing with you today will include cumin. Again, very cheap to get in bulk. The other items I recommend getting are dried green herbs like basil, thyme, parsley, and bay leaves. Those I always have on hand as well. As far as my grocery shopping goes, I usually hit up 3 stores. I always start with Aldi for my pastas, eggs, tomato sauces, cheese, all kinds of produce. Whatever is on my grocery list, I always hit up Aldi first and make sure I check off as much as I can from Aldi. Then I'll go to Winco next to pick up all my bulk things, canned items, coffee. This is where I get my herbs, my spices. This is where I get my grains. This is where I get canned tomatoes, canned corn. And then lastly, I go to Trader Joe's, which was my only grocery store that I used to go to, but prices have gone up so much at Trader Joe's, so that's the last store I go to just get my favorite staple items like tofu, tikka masala sauce, things like soy beef. Trader Joe's has delicious like vegetarian, vegan items, and usually I buy those things last at Trader Joe's. As much as I would love to buy everything organic, which I used to, with prices going up, I've had to just pick and choose what I buy organic and conventional. You'll also notice in these recipes that I do a mix. So I'll do some ingredients organic, some conventional. It all kind of depends on just what recipes I'm shopping for that day and what the best prices are. The recipes I'm about to share are mostly vegetarian, so there will be eggs in there will be cheese in there, but they are also gluten-free because I have to eat gluten-free. You can always switch it up depending on what your diet is. You can always switch up what kind of protein you want. You can switch up what kind of pasta you want, or what kind of grain. It's up to you, but I'm gonna share with you the way I make them, and at the end of the recipe, I'm gonna break down the prices of all the items and how much the full meal costs, plus breaking it down per serving. So the first recipe I'll be sharing is vegetarian chili with rice. And these are the ingredients. Again, I'll list them at the end of the recipe. And my choice of protein for this one is beefless ground beef. I have some rice going here. And unfortunately, I did forget to record the prep part, but basically you want to just dice your onions, chop your garlic, dice your bell peppers, and you want to throw them all in a pot, saute them in some oil, and once they get soft, then you want to throw in the diced tomatoes, add your spices like the cumin, paprika, salt and pepper, do a little taste test, and once you start to notice the flavors infuse, then you add your choice of protein. Let that protein soak up the flavors, and then add your corn, black beans, red beans, throw them all together and just mix them up and let it simmer up to your liking. Once you're done, the fun part starts, and you've played it with some rice, put some avocado on top, a little sprinkle of cheese, and of course some lime. This is very delicious, very filling, and this recipe usually makes enough for 4 servings. So the next recipe is a polenta brunch recipe. I like making this when I don't work on a Saturday or Sunday. And this recipe is actually only for 2 servings. It is a little bit more pricey compared to some of the other recipes I'll be sharing. But what brings up the cost of this is the eggs. And depending on which way you want to go, you can do a pre-made polenta, which in this recipe's case, I chose to do that because it's a lot easier. Or you can make this recipe even cheaper if you make polenta from scratch, which is super easy as well. A lot cheaper to do. All you have to do is like 4 parts water, 1 part polenta, let it mix together, let it boil, get it to the consistency you like, and then spice it up however you want. It will work great with this recipe as well. So with the polenta cakes, I put them in the oven. I season it with salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. Prepare my mushrooms with some salt and pepper and thyme. So I sauteed those. So there's a trick I do with this recipe in regards to how I blanch my spinach. Before I even get to poaching my eggs, what I do is I blanch the spinach in the clean boiling water. I do about like 1/3 of the bag into the boiling water, blanch it for like a few seconds, take it out and set it aside. Once I'm done with the spinach, that's when I add my vinegar in and start poaching my eggs. By the way, I'm really proud of my egg poaching skills. It took me a few months to get it down, but I think I've got it down. So here comes the fun part again, and it's my favorite part of cooking is plating. I have had a similar dish like this at a restaurant before, and it costs about $16. So $3.21 per person is not bad at all. I love Indian food, but anytime I've gone out for Indian food at a restaurant, it is so expensive. I don't think I've been to an Indian restaurant in like 2 years now, and I remember the last time I had Indian food, it cost me like $20 for just me. Imagine it's me and my husband, and we get drinks on top. It could go up to $60 just for us to go have a meal at an Indian restaurant. So in this recipe, I bought Trader Joe's Tikka Masala. It's really yummy, it's super flavorful, and honestly, you can thin it down and it's still super flavorful. All you have to do is chop up your vegetables, and while you're dicing your vegetables, you want to make sure you have your rice going as well. I first start with sauteing the onion, garlic, and carrots until they're nice and soft. Then I start adding the other vegetables like the green bell peppers, saute those. I do cover it with a lid for a little bit to soften even more. And then I toss in my potatoes. Then I add enough water to cover the vegetables to soften the potatoes. Once the potatoes are nice and soft, you just throw in that tikka masala sauce. Again, it is very rich, it's very flavorful. You hardly have to put any salt and pepper in there. I do have a hack that I like to do with some of my recipes that have more of a tomatoey taste, which I did with this because I think I did put a little bit too much water, is tomato paste. I add just like a few squeezes of the tomato paste that come in like a toothpaste bottle. I add just like maybe a tablespoon in there just to kind of bring back the flavors a little bit. And it's amazing what tomato paste can do for your recipes. Once the sauce flavor is to your liking, that's when I add my tofu as my protein. You can substitute this with anything else like chicken or whatever your choice is. And plating this one was a little bit difficult because I was using a phone for this one and trying to do it with one hand, so pardon the messy plating. So I was surprised at how low the cost was for this recipe. I thought it was going to be more because of the tikka masala sauce, but it actually came out to only $7.88. So that's 4 servings at $1.97 per serving. It's really delicious, it's very filling, and it tastes so much better the next day once all the flavors have infused together overnight. The next recipe is actually one of my more frugal recipes because it is super cheap to make this. It only takes about 5 ingredients total, aside from like your oil, salt, and pepper, but it consists of feta cheese, your pasta of choice, pesto, onion, and tomato. So you want to prepare your pasta by boiling your water first. And while the water is boiling, you can dice up your tomatoes and your onions and then set those aside. Throw your pasta in the boiling water, add a little bit of salt. Next thing is you want to preheat a saute pan. Make sure it's just big enough for 4 servings of pasta. Then I would turn down the heat a little bit just to add the basil, otherwise it splatters everywhere. And I'm gonna stop here for now because I forgot to hit record for the next part. Once you soften your onions, you get your basil warmed up in there, you actually wanna turn off the heat altogether. Add your tomatoes, give it a little stir, then toss in your pasta, give that stir until everything's nice and coated, then top it off with your feta, mix it around. This is one of my favorite recipes. I make this almost every week, maybe even twice a week, depending on how busy I am. It's pretty quick to make and it is super delicious, so much flavor and just very filling. So the last recipe that I'm sharing with you is probably my favorite recipe of all time at the moment, and if my husband had it his way, I would be making this every night. So these are the ingredients you'll need. I'm using all the spices that I recommended, and of course you got your vegetables and 2 types of cheese. You can just choose one cheese, which will make it cheaper, but there is something about having mozzarella and feta together in this recipe, and it is delicious. So you want to start with peeling your potatoes. My favorite potato is actually yellow or golden potatoes. I just love the texture. It works in almost any recipe that I make because it doesn't fall apart easily. So you want to dice them up really small because the potatoes will be your filling. Then you want to season it with garlic powder, onion powder, lots of paprika, and cumin. I'm pretty heavy-handed with all of these spices, as you can see, but it tastes so good. Add a little bit of salt and pepper. And the one thing I forgot to do was actually add oil. So I add a little bit of oil just to get it nice and crispy because I'm gonna be putting it in the oven. I set the oven anywhere between 425 or 450, depending on how quickly I want it to cook. So while that's in the oven, I chop up my tomatoes, my onions, chop up my cilantro, avocado, and I drizzle only half a lime in there because I feel like it's enough lime. A little bit of salt and pepper, and give it a nice toss until everything is evenly spread out. So this is a hack that someone told me about. Instead of having another pan to pull out and warming your tortillas that way, she taught me to just stack your tortillas in a cotton towel, fold it up, and put it in the microwave for about a minute. I stacked about 7 tortillas for this one. Once the potatoes are nice and cooked, golden brown and crispy to your liking, then we move on to my favorite part, is the plating. This recipe is so yummy. I freaking love making potato tacos. Like, seriously, I will eat this as often as possible. It's pretty quick to make. It's pretty cheap to make. The one thing that does make it cost more is cheese, because cheese is expensive. So you can always switch it out or leave it out altogether or just choose one. So those are my 5 favorite recipes. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these recipes. I would love to hear what budget-friendly recipes you guys like to make. If you ever get a chance to try some of these, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the recipes I shared. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.